Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
Hey everybody, this is Board on a Thursday here. We'll be talking NBA awards, our awards for the season. No JJ today. He's busy doing God knows what. So it's me, Chris Bird.
Push-ups and some burpees and some throwing bricks or tossing tires or whatever the hell it is they do.
All for time. All for time.
Yeah.
I'm Chris Burden, and this is my co-host, Mike Harris.
What's up, buddy? Also,
What's up,
let's be a little more informal about it. You're Burden, I'm Harris. That's what everybody calls us.
That'll work.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go through. I know there's gonna be some things that we're gonna argue about. So I'm excited. I'm always up for a good argument with Mike on the NBA. So
Pretty much all we do.
Pretty much all we do. So MVP, let's start off. Mike, who you got for MVP this season?
That depends. Which definition of MVP are we going for? The actual most valuable player in the league? Because if that's the case, just give it to LeBron every year until he's no longer playing. But the best player in the league right now it's Russell Westbrook, hands down. And take a wild guess while I'm making that decision.
I could take a couple guesses. I would have to think that it would start with the NBA 2K numbers he's putting up right now. My vote is going to be for James Harden, and I'll tell you why. If you look at their stats, they're pretty close. I think he trails Westbrook by a couple rebounds a game. I think he averages like 8.5 or 8, and then Westbrook averages around 10, a little over 10. So to me, that's not the fact that you get a triple double. To me, is not. I don't look at it as that. I mean, it's an accomplishment, but to me, a 28, 10, and 9 game is just as good as a 28, 10, and 10 game. You know, it's not that much of a difference. So for me, I think the way that James Harden has changed the way that he plays, he's gone from kind of a strictly just ball-centric guy to where he's just going to put up all the shots he can. He's involving his teammates a lot more this year. I always talk about when you're an elite talent, LeBron, Westbrook, Harden, those guys, if they wanted to get a triple-double every game, they could get a triple-double just about every game. So to me, I feel like Westbrook's just kind of stat chasing a little bit. Like the other night, they were playing Houston, and he wanted that rebound so bad that he actually hit it into his own goal when his guy clearly would have had the rebound. So just things like that.
Are you talking about the one where he and Nene were going up for the same rebound?
Exactly. There was a 7-foot guy in front of Nene that could have gotten it, but Westbrook being Westbrook,
he's always
wanted that rebound.
Like that,
but that's my point is, he's not playing any differently this year than he did last year. He
has the ball in his hands more.
Exactly. And let's talk about the fact that he put up, I think it was 400 more shots than like the next person or than James Harden. It's insane.
Have you looked at his roster?
Dude, if you look at his roster compared to Houston's, it's
exactly.
not that
Oh,
big
please
of
make that point right now. Tell me, don't lie to me and tell me you think OKC's roster is better than Houston's right now.
They're not better, but it's not that big of a difference. It's not huge.
Man, he has no shooters. OKC has 0 3-point shooters on that team.
How would he know when he shoots the ball 400 more times than
How would he know he averages 10 assists a game? That's how he would know.
Dude, he's getting what I like to call Rondo assists. And by Rondo assists, I mean he holds onto the ball for 20 seconds and then he kicks it. And then they have to shoot it. So if they make it, it's an assist. If they don't, well, whatever.
I can't tell if you're comparing real life or 2K right now.
I'm comparing. This is real life. You're
blowing my mind right now. You cannot compare him and Rajon Rondo. No,
he's 10 times better than Rajon Rondo. But that's when I started noticing that guys do that. They have the ball in their hands for an extended period of time. They kick it with a few seconds on the clock, and if they make it, then an assist. But when you have the ball in your hand, 80% of the possession, you're going to get a lot of assists. I mean, it's just the way it is. So, I mean, Westbrook will probably get it. I'm pretty sure he will, just because, it's like the feel-good story. He broke the record or whatever. But to me, as far as valuable, if James Harden in on Houston, I don't think they're sniffing the playoffs either. So,
no, not even close.
Before the beginning of the season, would you have thought Houston would be the 3 seed in the West?
No, of course not.
So, to me,
I would have maybe top 5, but not 3.
Yeah, so I would think that they'd be kind of comparable to OKC. Like, I thought OKC might be fighting for that last 8th spot. So to me,
better than that.
Yeah, so the fact that they were able to get the 3 seed to me was kind of shocking and just kind of shown how he's grown as a player this year. But again,
it's less that and more that like candy eating goofball Dwight Howard isn't there.
Yeah,
Dwight Howard works and just standing in the lane pouting.
I've never in my life seen a dude go from dominating the way that he dominated for a couple years to just absolutely nothing for the past 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's insane. But yeah, speaking of Dwight Howard, this is an award he used to dominate, and that's Defensive Player of the Year. So my pick for Defensive Player of the Year this year is Draymond Green. To me, a guy that can guard just about every position on the floor. Having that on your team, to me, is the most valuable thing you can do. I get that probably Gobert is the next guy in line, but he's kind of limited as to how he can affect the game. Draymond Green can literally guard any person on the other team just about. And to me, that's just having that utility and being able to do those different things that kind of puts him over the top for me.
I get that. He was in my top 3 choices with the things he's able to do, like you mentioned, able to guard every position. The offense basically runs through him at some points during the game. He leads his team in assists, blocks, steals, rebounds. That puts him more in the MVP conversation, which I also had in my top 3.
Oh my god!
Oh, come on, tell me somebody else in the league who's doing that other than Russ.
Draymond Green for MVP. He averages 10 points a game.
Who cares?
10 points a game.
Who cares? Take him off their team.
Take him off the team, and they're still top 3. Still top 3. You put him on Orlando. Orlando's still terrible. Still terrible.
Yeah, you're missing my point. You take him off the team is still good, yes. But a guy that's playing with that kind of talent and able to put up those numbers and play all those minutes and guard every position, and he's leading his team in technical fouls at the same time. I mean, yes. I forgot the fact that he leads the league in technical fouls. We should definitely give him MVP. You're right. I didn't say he was MVP. I said he was my top 3 for MVP. Jeez,
oh my god, you're making my head explode right now, dude. There's no way you could say okay. Hey, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. This is open debate. But
my pick for Defensive Player of the Year is Kawhi Leonard. Only because, again, you can't give him MVP because somebody was a little better than he was this season. The guy is a stud, and it's hard to argue that. Like, I remember the day he got drafted. I was with some friends downtown. They announced that the Spurs traded George Hill to, I believe was it Indiana?
It was Indiana, yeah, because they were talking about it the other night.
At the time, for some guy named Kawhi Leonard. And somebody asked me, like, who's Kawhi Leonard? I was like, I don't know, but it's the Spurs, and I bet you in 3 to 4 years I'm going to hate it. And look what happens. Like, the guy's footwork has become incredible. He can handle the ball now. The way he's progressed is the same way that we watched a guy like Tony Parker progress since the day he got drafted. I remember that guy couldn't shoot to save his life. All he could do was get in the lane, couldn't play defense. Now Kawhi Leonard is arguably the best two-way player in the league right now.
Yeah, I agree. To me, Kawhi Leonard is right up there with the top echelon of players. There's no debate about it. I knew him a little bit when he played in college. I followed college basketball quite a bit, so I knew of him. I didn't know that he would ever be this good. I heard the other day they were talking, I think it was Dan Patrick's show, they were talking about, is Kawhi Leonard a superstar? And they were saying that he wasn't because he doesn't have the personality to...
That's stupid.
Like Carmelo is a superstar, but Kawhi Leonard's not.
That's
and
dumb.
They said, yeah, I was literally like throwing a fit on my couch. Like I could not believe they were saying this. And then they would bring up players
who was
like
saying this?
Dan Patrick. And
it sounds like something Cowherd would bring up.
Exactly. And they were talking about, they were like, okay, well, is John Stockton a superstar? And he's like, no, he's a Hall of Famer. And I was just like, dude, that right there is the problem with the NBA. That's the problem with the NBA.
Stupid argument.
Is you've got dudes that are elite talent. See, he's getting confused superstar and celebrity.
Right.
Like to me, Carmelo Anthony's a celebrity. He's not a superstar anymore as far as talent. Some would argue that I have a little bit lower opinion of Carmelo, but to say that Kawhi Leonard's not a superstar, I can't even imagine how you would come to that conclusion.
That's like saying Tim Duncan wasn't a superstar.
Yeah, I think he was the other one that they said. He's like, no, he's a Hall of Famer, but he's not a superstar. And I was just losing my mind. Okay, so for Defensive Player of the Year, you got Kawhi, I got Draymond. So let's move on to Rookie of the Year. I know we got different opinions on this one, so you go ahead and spout us with your wisdom.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and get it out there so you can yell at me. I'm with all these other pundits that believe what you see is what you get, and even though there was a small sample size, it was still way better than everybody else that was drafted. So Joel Embiid, the process, was my pick for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I understand why people are picking him, and in any other year, this wouldn't even be a debate. It's just because this year the rookie class has been so terrible. Malcolm Brogdon, who I think is a nice player, I think he's going to be to me, he's like Shane Battier. Like, he's going to be in the league a long time. He's never going to be all NBA or anything like that, but he's going to be a very productive player in the league for a long time. And so for me, Rookie of the Year is Malcolm Brogdon. But if you look at his stats aren't great. I mean, compared to other Rookie of the Years, they're not even close. Compared to Joel Embiid's stats, they're not close. But to only play in 31 games and then give that person Rookie of the Year just because the other guys, I don't know. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. You couldn't do that with any other award. You couldn't do that with MVP. You couldn't do that with Defensive Player of the Year, no matter how good their stats were. To me, you got to play more than half of your team's games, or at least 50 games in a season to be considered. I don't know. I think most people will kind of be purists about it, and they'll kind of go either the Brogdon or Saric from Philly. They'll kind of go that route. But honestly, man, and another thing that irritates me is this is his third year in the league. Like, this is not his rookie year. This is his third year. He's been hurt the other 2 years. So I don't even understand why he's in the running for Rookie of the Year. Like, you get one chance. I'm sorry your, kneecaps blew out. It's not my fault.
That's like when Blake Griffin won Rookie of the Year. He was already in the league for a full season. He was just sitting on the bench.
And I wasn't happy about that either.
Why not? He didn't play.
But you're not a rookie, though.
You're not a rookie.
You're not a rookie, though.
Yeah, you are. That's when you first. He had 0 minutes played.
No. He has actually played less games, I think like a third of the amount of games that Greg Oden had played in his first 3 years.
Yeah,
I think Greg Oden had played like 80-something, and he's only played 31 in 3 years. Like, if I'm Philly, that's troublesome.
No, it's extremely. But it's also promising the numbers he put up, so who knows? It can go either way.
No, if he can stay healthy, man, he's gonna be a top talent at that position for sure.
Dario Saric, like you said. And then Ben Simmons.
Simmons.
The process would have finally worked.
And they could get two of the top. They could get 2 of the top 4 picks this year.
Then, there you go.
LA falls out. So, All right, let's move on to most improved player. So, Mike, who do you got for most improved player?
I can't imagine we disagree on this. Maybe the third or fourth, easily top 5 best player in the Eastern Conference this season, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek Freak. It could have been, would have been, should have been. I wished he'd been Maverick at one point. The guy took a quantum leap this season, played every position on the floor. Like, he looked like rookie magic out there. Like, he was playing the point, dropping in the center when Greg Monroe was being defenseless Greg Monroe at points. I mean, I love just to get off topic a little bit, I love the positionless basketball that Jason Kidd has going in Milwaukee right now. It's fun to watch. It's hard to guard. Their small ball is still just about as tall as any other starting 5 in the league. It goes a little bit against the grain of what coaches have done in the past, but I love it, A, because it's Jason Kidd, and B, just because it's a little unorthodox and, like a little strange.
I agree. This whole thing of, players playing certain positions, like, that's gone. The fact that Russell Westbrook and James Harden are considered point guards tells you everything you need to know. When you're putting up those kind of shots a game, when you're scoring that at that clip, to me, that's a shooting guard. Like, your point guard is the guy who used to facilitate, get people involved, whatever. But that's not the way the game is anymore. And, I'm cool with it too. Like, it's what's best for the game. I want the guys that have the talent. I want the ball in their hands majority of the time and making plays. Imagine how good they're going to be. Like, they don't even have Jabari Parker right now.
God, I mean, you throw
him in there, I'm telling you, man, gosh. Like, that's the team in the East that's going to, everybody keeps talking about Washington, and this and that. Like, Milwaukee's going to be the team that's going to be there.
They just have to stay healthy. That's the problem.
Yeah, they just got to stay healthy, and they got to get a good veteran that can kind of put those guys on their back and kind of, get them through those growing pains of playoffs.
Did you listen to Bill Simmons' pod last week?
No.
It was a really good question to him about whether or not CP3 should opt out of staying in LA, potentially being the veteran leader and point guard for Milwaukee.
I didn't see the podcast. I saw he put a thing out on Twitter about that, and I'd never thought about him going there, but I was like, dude, that makes perfect sense. Like that would be, not only are you getting out of the West where your road is a lot more difficult, but you're going to a team who you got two. If Jabari Parker's healthy, he's one of the top young talents in the league, and Greek Freak might be the best young talent in the league. So, I mean, that right there, you put 3 years together with that team, who knows how far they could go.
Yeah.
For me, we are going to disagree on this.
Wow.
Most improved player to me is Rudy Gobert. I believe that the Mavs had a chance at him too, and they blew that. And here's the reason why Rudy Gobert is the most improved player for me is because I didn't even know who he was last year. Like, if you would have told me, I should have.
I told you, and I told a few people, look, this guy's going to be top 3 center in the league within the next 4 years.
I don't get NBA League Pass, okay? I watch what ESPN and TNT show me, and they don't ever show me.
All I have is League Pass.
So maybe I need to get League Pass. But to me, okay.
It's not worth the money.
I won't, then. I trust you. Greek Freak, probably, I knew who he was last year. I knew he was going to progress. But to me, like, Gobert kind of came out of nowhere and really, I mean, the fact that he's being considered for, Defensive Player of the Year, he'll probably end up on one of the All-NBA teams. To me, that's like, a bigger growth just because Greek Freak had a higher, starting point than he did. But either one, I wouldn't be mad either way. I mean, if they give it to Giannis, I'm cool with that too because he deserves it too. All right, let's move on. Coach of the Year.
I'll let you start this one up.
Do what?
I'll let you start this one.
Okay. My Coach of the Year is Brad Stevens from Boston. And initially it was between him and Mike D'Antoni. The reason I went with Brad Stevens is if you really look at Boston's roster, you take Isaiah Thomas off that team. I mean, who do you have? I mean, you've got some nice pieces, but you don't have stars. Like you look at the other rosters in the East at the top. You look at Cleveland, you look at Washington, you look at Toronto. Each of those teams have 2 stars on their team at least. Boston doesn't. So the fact that they were able to get the 1 seed, I like the way he coaches. He's making the most out of what he's got. Now, if they can just add another piece, I mean, there's no telling what he can do with that. Brad Stevens is Coach of the Year.
My pick for Coach of the Year was Mike D'Antoni. I think Daryl Morey finally got the coach he's been looking for to fit his scheme, and then D'Antoni finally got the point guard he's been looking for to fit his scheme ever since he stopped coaching the Suns. And it was the brilliant move of the season to put James Harden as a starting point guard for the Houston Rockets and then run the entire offense through his ball handling. And you see the results. The 3rd seed in the West, he's averaging close to a triple-double. He's got guys like Aaron Gordon and all these throwaway players that nobody really wanted looking like all-stars almost.
Like I said earlier, he's my second choice. And I almost jumped in, but you said it right as I was thinking it. Not only did they get the coach that they were looking for, but he got the players that he needed to run his system. And, when you put the right players around him and you run it to its fullest extent, I mean, you're seeing the benefits of it. I don't know how far they'll go this year in the playoffs, but I'll put it this way. If you put them in the East, I think they come out of the East.
I think they come out of the East, too.
Yeah. So we'll get into this one day about the fact that I think we both agree that the NBA should seed 1 through 16 in the playoffs.
Definitely.
And do away with conferences. We'll get into that more on another day, but I know we've talked about this before, so we'll hit on it probably.
You've talked about doing rule changes, and I started thinking about it, and you're right. I can think of 5,
I was going to say, dude,
7,
I thought of like 4 right off the top of my head.
I could. Yeah, we'll definitely need to say that for another pod, but yeah, that'll be a fun one.
Yeah. So I think we both agree.
Lowering the freaking age to 18. Stop doing this 1 year, 2 years, 3 year in college.
Yeah, straight out of high school or 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, right now
we're gonna get off topic.
Well, yeah, we're getting off topic, but right now, real quick, and you look at any mock draft, the top 8 or 9 picks are all freshmen.
Right.
I mean,
it's been like that for years.
And these dudes aren't coming in and they're not ready. I mean, you look at the NBA now, the one guy that's ready are the 2 best guys in this rookie class. One guy's been in the league for 3 years technically, and the other guy was a senior at Virginia. Everyone else, man, they're just not ready to play right now. 6th man of the year, I think we both agree on this one. Mine is I can't remember what you said, but mine's Eric Gordon of the Rockets. When they signed him, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, he'll stay healthy about half the season. You know, he's a decent player, but man, he is in the perfect spot to do what he does best: spot up, shoot, and just be a scorer, man. Like that's his thing. When he was in Indiana, that was his thing, and he's able to do that. He's got another star around him that can take some of the pressure off of him, and he's really flourishing. So, to me, it's Eric Gordon. The second guy for me was Iguodala, just because of the different intangibles and things that he does, but. That's my 1 and 2. So who do you got?
I actually had a last minute switch. I had Iggy as my 1, but and like you said, like this guy had the quietest, best 6-man of the year. Just like I think it's because the Warriors are so good and have been so good for these last 3 seasons.
Yeah,
like everybody just kind of expects them to. You look at the scoreboard and you see the box scores like 128 to 102, and you just assume that Clay and Steph did their thing, and then everybody else is kind of filled in whatever. Like, and then you look up and you see that Iggy's guarding the best guy on the floor. Iggy's hitting big threes in the corner, and he's getting to the rim, he's getting steals, and then at the end of the season, you just kind of like it's like those days when a running back has like 120 yards. You're like, wait, what? How did that happen?
Yeah,
but. And this might sound a little weird, but my pick for 6th man of the year is James Johnson from Miami Heat.
I feel like you just looked him up just to be different. You looked him up and you're like, man, who can I think of that's just totally off the wall?
If I didn't look somebody up, it would have been Eric Gordon, because I forgot that guy was even in the league until Sunday when we were watching that game. But that's a joke. No, James Johnson, I think he deserves 6th man of the year this year. The guy's predicted as a huge talent. I should correct myself. When he was drafted, people were comparing him to the next LeBron James, like they do everybody, which is an unfair thing for most players anyway. The guy started putting on weight, couldn't stay healthy, finally finds a home here there in Miami, and it's insane because you watch the guy lose 20 pounds during the season, not the off season, during the season. And he's putting on highlight dunks like he was doing in high school. He's a great ball handler for a guy his size. He's improved almost every metric that he's had since the forgotten days when he was in I believe in Boston the year before this, or 2 years ago.
I think he was in Boston. Yeah.
So I can't even remember because he was riding the bench behind freaking Gerald Green and people. He's arguably had a better season, I think, than Iguodala did. But it's arguable. And
I think some of these, we kind of know which way that people are going to vote kind of based on history. Even though I go with Harden, I don't think there's any way they don't give it to Westbrook this year just because of the breaking Oscars record. I just don't see that happening. Like I said, it'll be cool. I don't know how I feel about them doing it at the end of the year so that they can put on a show.
They do it. Wait, did they change it? Are they not doing it?
Yeah, no, they're doing an NBA
stupid thing with Drake hosting or something, right?
Yeah, they're doing an NBA awards show. Now they're going to announce the All NBA teams before that, so before the draft, so that they can make better decisions. I'm basically calling it the Paul George rule, because if he makes one of the All NBA teams, he gets a huge bonus on his contract. Yep. So that's why they're going to release that.
Well, he and Gordon Hayward.
Oh, Gordon Hayward has that too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One of them's going to make one, and the other one isn't.
That's true.
We'll get to that in a minute.
So let's start with our NBA first team.
Yep.
So Mike, go ahead and do first team.
All right. This one probably easier than it should have been. When we get to 2 and 3, that's when it gets a little tough. But for the guards, I have Russ and Harden. That's pretty obvious. LeBron, who's probably going to stay in that spot for a few more years easily. Kawhi, I think was better than most of the forwards in the league whose names aren't LeBron. This is the tough one because we were having this discussion earlier. Is he a center or is he a power forward? Now, I, for the sake of this pod, put Anthony Davis as a center, and he's going to round out my top 5 for first team All-NBA. He's also in there as a power forward, kind of the way that Tim Duncan was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I think that was more for All-Star votes because he had Shaq also in the West, and you can't really start an All-Star game if you got Shaq at center and Tim Duncan at center. Shaq's going to win every time, as far as the popular vote goes. But that's a different subject for a different day.
I don't like the way that the NBA does it either. I think they should have 2 backcourt spots and 3 frontcourt spots.
Agreed.
Because what's going to happen, and you might be seeing it happen. You might see it happen this year. Is if they're going to write into people's contract, hey, if you make All NBA, then you get a bonus.
Paid.
Well, now I'm going to them and I'm saying, hey, I want to be a center. because the road to being an All NBA center is much easier than the power forward. The power forward route, or even the forward route, because you don't really have a power forward there if we're going to put James and Kawhi there. So I think that they should look into that. Just have 3 front court spots, and then that way you could put whatever forwards or center you want to put in that first spot. I had the exact same first team. Depending on what they do with Anthony Davis, that'll be the only difference. But those top 4, I don't see how you change those, how you have a different outcome than those top 4 people. And then, of course, I had Davis too. So we won't stay too long on that. I think all those guys are deserving. So second team, I have Steph, Isaiah Thomas, Durant, Greek Freak, and Karl Anthony Towns as my center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
defend Towns over Gobert, because I had everybody the same as you except for Gobert.
I'll defend Towns, Towns over Gobert by doing this. Towns 25 and 12 with 1.3 blocks a game. I believe Gobert had 14 and 13, and then he had 2.5 blocks a game. So to me, it's all about the league is more offensively driven than any time before. If I'm starting a team tomorrow, I'm taking Karl Anthony Towns over Rudy Gobert, and I think he had a better year statistically than him. That's why I went with Towns.
Okay, I can't argue with that started team scenario. I would do the exact same thing, but I just feel like Gobert was the centerpiece, pun not intended, of a Jazz team that hasn't made the playoffs in a few years. I mean, Joe Johnson obviously helps. I think when that guy wasn't on the floor, it showed as far as their defensive efficiency went. But when he was on the floor, you couldn't bring it in the paint. There's not a lot of true centers left in the league that can put up boards, points, and blocks the way that Gobert does. Karl Anthony Towns and Marc Gasol. I mean, they're kind of a rare breed right now. DeAndre Jordan, you're not gonna run any plays through him ever unless it's a lob pass. I mean, I can't even. And Boogie Cousins, and that's about it. But Boogie kind of fell off this year. I fell back because he didn't make my list this year, and he's one of my favorite players in the league.
All right. I think we're going to have some differences on this third team. I think this third team is where you have some differences.
I didn't even finish my third team because it's so hard to pick.
Yeah. So you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You go first because I'm still trying
All right. My third team, and this was by far the hardest team for me to come up with, John Wall, DeRozan.
I'd agree.
I initially would not have put DeRozan there, but I'll get into him in a second of why I think he should be up there. Okay. Gordon Hayward, and
I reluctantly agree. That was
and
a hard one.
I'm giving him the bonus, Paul George. I think
really.
I think he's. I think I'll go into why I think him over a couple other guys I had listed there, and then he might be one of your favorite players, and I haven't been big on him, but I'm going Boogie. I'm going Boogie at center, man. And I'm going to talk about DeRozan. Well, let me get into Cousins first. So the reason I went with Cousins over Gobert is, again, his stats are just better. They're so close as far as rebounds, but he almost he averaged 24.5 to Gobert's 14. Mm-hmm. The rebounds are almost a wash, and then Gobert had better defensive stats. And this is kind of where you get in that argument too, is it the best players from the best teams, or is it the guys who made the most impact on playoff teams? It could go either way. I would prefer Cousins be on there than Gobert, but that's just my, that's my personal preference.
I mean, on paper, I disagreed with you, but in theory, I do not disagree with you.
So going to Paul George. So some of the other guys I had listed, I had Draymond Green, I had Jimmy Butler were the other two that were kind of fighting for those two. It came down to those guys. Jimmy Butler, I don't know if you classify him as a small forward or a shooting guard.
I think he's a forward because Dwayne White played more too this season.
Right. I just think Paul George, for what he, if you look at their roster, they have Miles Turner who's going to be a nice player. But right now, they just don't have really anybody. I think them making the playoffs was a good thing for them. I don't think people, if you looked at the roster, you'd say, man, that's a playoff team. But you look at Chicago, and I would say that they underperformed. I think most people thought that they should be in the top 5 of the Eastern Conference.
Oh, yeah. I had a few friends I was arguing with beginning of the season, talking about they thought Chicago was going to be, a home seed first round in playoffs. And they also thought New York was too. So I'm not going to get into that.
Well, who are these friends? You gotta start. It's hanging out in Austin. That's what it is, man. People don't know basketball.
Some guys used to hang out at good old Docs with. R.I.P. Docs.
Oh,
We're always going to miss you.
So, yeah, I mean, he averaged over 23 a game. His rebounds and assists were about what they're at for his career. I just, when you're getting that close, like, you just have to kind of pick your preference. And the reason I didn't go with Draymond is, again, he averages less than half the amount of points that these other guys do. And his rebound numbers aren't that much higher. He was actually down in his rebound and his assist numbers than last year. Having Kevin Durant on your team is going to bring your numbers down some. But if you're looking at who's the better player, I think Paul George is more. If you switch them, if you put Paul George on the Warriors and you put Draymond Green on the Pacers, I think the Pacers are much worse, and the Warriors are probably the same. I mean, I don't know how many more games they could possibly win because they win over 60 every year.
Right.
But
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like Draymond, I think he makes the Pacers worse if you make that trade or if you make that switch. So that's my third team. Were you able to come up with yours?
Yeah, I think the main differences we had were at the forward spot. I had Jimmy Butler. And then also had Draymond Green. And I need to go back and defend my argument earlier for MVP. Beginning of the season, some friends and I were talking, is it possible for another player to ever replicate averaging a triple-double in a season? And I said if it were ever going to happen, it's going to be A, Russell Westbrook, because of the way he ended the season last year. And then B, it's going to be Draymond Green, because he fills the stat sheet for everything on his team. Even if it was a 10, 10, and 10, triple-double's a triple-double. That being said, the season started, I said there's no way in hell Russell Westbrook's going to be able to keep up that pace because the guy plays almost a little too violently for a guard, and his pace is insane. But it goes to show how much I know. The guy is a freak athlete and could probably run a marathon right now without even training for it. But I also thought Draymond Green can go out and get you, he could probably average 9.5 for every stat and then get you 5 blocks. And he could be in the argument for MVP just because there's not a whole lot of guys putting up those kind of numbers, period, any position. But I digress. Back to my top 5 for third team All-NBA. I put Karl Anthony Towns for the 5 in this spot. Pretty much the same reasons you said earlier. If I was going to start a team, he's obviously going to be on it. He's going to be one of my top 5 picks. But the main difference that we had was going to be at the guard position, and I put CP3 in here because he's still arguably the best point guard in the league at 33 right now?
Yep.
He's still playing
somewhere
around
there.
28. The guy is not really missing a step. The only thing I wish he would do more, and I think he's doing this as more of a business decision, is the guy won't turn it on scoring-wise unless he's really needed to do so. I think the guy could average 26 a game and 13 assists. No problem. He can still shoot plenty. He can still get to the rim when he needs to. He can shake almost anybody.
I think he could average
you don't think so?
35 points and, 17 assists with probably, 13 boards.
Oh,
if I had
wow.
to guess.
Okay, I said 26.
Chris Paul's good, but here's the thing: is like it's not going. It's just like we talked about earlier with MVP. If you just say it's the best player, then it's going to the best player in the league. It's LeBron. You might as well just not even have the award. You might as well just give it to him at the beginning of each season and just let him hold on to it.
Just change it out and make it a big bust of him so he can carry it around.
Yeah, so
just give him a championship belt. Make it a lot easier for him to carry it around.
Paul Wall.
Chris Paul? Paul George?
No,
what are you talking about?
Then I said Paul Wall.
Why did you say
John Wall? To me, John Wall had the best year of his career, had a better year than CP3. I'm not sure exactly who averaged more assists, him or CP3, but I know it was close. Wall did. Wall averaged more assists, and he averaged more points per game. So I would go the John Wall route, and then DeRozan. DeRozan, man, had a good year too. I think he averaged like 27 a game, and he kind of went under the radar. But when Kyle Lowry went down, he really stepped up his game and got them the 3 seed when they were kind of struggling there for a little bit. So
DeMar DeRozan bugs me because he's a shooting guard that can't shoot.
No, but he can score.
I can't back shooting guards that can't shoot. It bugs me.
So those are our NBA awards. We are going to kind of switch gears. Next episode, we're going to talk NFL. Mainly, we'll go over the schedule quickly, and then we'll mainly talk about the draft. Probably try to have that out before the weekend. And
Houston closed it out, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, man, Westbrook had 47. but he shot the ball like 35 times. So not as impressive. But I mean, still impressive.
It's
but
still impressive.
when you go 12 for 35, it kind of makes it a little less impressive, I guess. But anyways, continue to, man, everybody that's listening to the show, we appreciate it. We're still trying to grow this thing, day by day. So any suggestions, any feedback, that's what we need more than anything. You're not going to hurt our feelings. JJ's not here, so he would be the sensitive one. Let us know what we can do better next time. We are on Twitter at Board Sports, BORED Sports. And we have a Facebook page, Board on Thursday, and we just got on Spreaker, so we're going to be setting that up and getting that out there here pretty soon. So thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
Peace.